Now, children's centres, they were first set up 20 years ago to support early education and have been seen as a lifeline for young families. Since 2010, funding has been halved, and in this region, more than a third have been closed. Well, now Norfolk wants to cut its centres from 53 to 7. Here's Joe Thewlis.
3-year-old Callum and his brother Aidan use their children's centre in Norwich every day. For Callum, it's an important place to play and to learn. Callum has hearing difficulties and struggled until staff at the centre picked up on his problem. His father John says their support has been crucial.
It means a lot to us. They've helped our children so much since they were born. We've had no end of support from our children's centre, and without them, our children would be much more behind than what they are now.
Centres like this offer play sessions for children up to the age of 5, but they also offer help and advice for parents. And some fear that if they're closed, it could shut off a vital lifeline for those in need.
But this centre is one of 46 being threatened with closure across Norfolk. It's part of a move by the county council to save £5 million. But John says closing the service would affect many families nearby.
This is directly in the middle of this area, so this is a fantastic place for people to come. People walk past this every day and come in and out of this place every day. We've never seen it quiet, and it will harm the community. Norfolk is very close-knit, and if this sort of centre was to go, I don't know what the parents would do.
Just 6 months ago, the council pledged not to close any centres at all. Now, all that's changed, and the council's currently carrying out a consultation into its plans to close all but 7 children's centres across the county.
What do we want? Stop the cuts! When do we want it? Now!
Early this week, protesters gathered outside County Hall in Norwich ahead of a full council meeting at which the consultation was discussed. There are fears that all families could lose out if the plans go ahead.
These are lifelines to local communities. They offer help, they offer support, they offer health advice, everything that communities need. So by kicking those away, destroying those, actually what you're saying to a community is you're not going to have any resource, you're not getting the support that you need, and basically we don't care about you. So of course people are going to be angry.
As you can hear behind me, there are strong feelings about the proposed closures, but the council has to save £94 million over the next 4 years, and it has to balance its books.
And Norfolk is not alone. Essex has one of the highest number of closures in the country. The East has lost more than a third in the past decade. In 2009, there were 452 children's centres in the East. Now there'll be 296 if proposals go ahead. That's a drop of 35%. Set up by the Labour government, the aim of Surestart centres was originally to improve the life chances for all young families. Now, children's centres are no longer open access and cater specifically for a smaller number of disadvantaged families.
Because at the end of the day, we've got to look after our children. Long when we're all gone, it's our children who are going to be running things, and they need a good start in life. And if you take away these centres, which were set up for them, they're losing their early start.
But for families like the Watsons, these centres play a huge role in their daily life, and they're vowing to fight on to keep them open.
Well, let's speak to the head of Children's Services in Norfolk, Stewart. Only 6 months ago, we were promised that none of these would be closed. So what's changed in 6 months?
I think the key piece for us is around this is we need to be reassuring people of why are we looking at this and why are we looking at it now. The situation is that, as you've said in your report, Surestart centres are a concept that's been around for about 17 to 20 years. So that's been around some time. The contracts in Norfolk have been for 7 years and have been extended during that time. And they were up for renewal next year. So it is absolutely right that we actually look at it at the moment and say, if we are going to deliver a quality service across the whole 2,000 plus square miles of Norfolk so that people in rural parts of the county get the same service as in Norwich, or we even give a better service to the people that need it the most, that it's right that we actually go out to consultation with a series of proposals and listen to the feedback from that.
And the feedback is that people don't want them closed. Is this just to save money?
No, I think we need to look at what we are trying to look at around this. If people actually, your viewers, listen to or look at what has changed in their lives in the last 7 years, an awful lot has changed. If you magnify that across the county, we have people with different challenges for their families, we have them living in different locations, and we have them asking for services to be accessed in different ways. So it's right that we respond to that. Now, part of that is we feel that services are delivered by people to people, not by buildings. And I think one of the unfortunate, if you like, shorthands around this is people are looking at the centre of the community having to go to a centre, whereas the model that's being proposed is an outreach model where we actually put most support to the people that need it the most in the areas that need it the most, and we have us having our services delivered into the community rather than the community coming to us.
But you are saving £5 million on this. So it is about saving money, isn't it?
I think, and I'm not trying to be evasive of your question, if you actually look at this, it is one budget line. If you actually look at the investment that is going into the same space, because all of the research, and we totally agree that we are there trying to help young families and help young children in Norfolk because it's the right thing to do. But if you look at the investment curve, we are still investing £15 million into the Healthy Child programme with the NHS. That funding is still there and untouched.
If you are, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if you are not cutting things, why is that everybody thinks you are cutting things? And there is this £5 million, and this is money that you're trying to save.
No, what I would say, and just to finish on what I was saying, that £15 million is still being invested into the same space. We have a £12 million transformation programme, which has also been trailed, that is getting help into the families that need it the most at the earliest opportunity. We've got £100 million being invested in S&D schooling because we don't agree with the previous notion that actually it's all right for children to be bussed all around the county when we can deliver better service locally. So there is significant investment going into children's services. But with this budget line, we feel there is an opportunity to reprofile the service and make sure that the money that is going into it is delivered into frontline staff and not into buildings that actually are just, if you look at the building, it is actually costing an awful lot of money in terms of heating, lighting, administrative costs. We have 12 different providers at the moment, and it is a crowded, it is a crowded environment.
Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is he right? It's just a building.
It's about a lot more than a building, and we went to the original concept there. It's a very simple idea that you intervene early in people's lives and you save a lot of money by doing it. Every pound you spend between 0 and 5... But he is saying they're
reinvesting it in different ways and he doesn't want people bust all over the county.
Well, it's probably better that I don't comment on that interview, which I didn't find particularly credible. There is a credible argument to make if you're a local councillor having to cut services, which is we're receiving less money from the government to do it. I suppose my real concern is this should be viewed as a national service delivered nationally like education would be. Schools, hospitals and so on. It's that important. It's probably one of the most important interventions the government ever gets the chance to make in people's lives is 0 to 5. And yet we're seeing this postcode lottery right across the East right now with councillors having to come out and own decisions that really have been driven by the fact that budgets are being cut.
Why do you think it is that some councils, there seem to be very few cuts, and in some councils, like the proposal in Norfolk, a drastic cut?
Well, I think a lot of it can spring from just the difference between more rural versus urban constituencies. And I remember when the Surestart closures started about 10 years ago, and what the argument that was made then was how it was being the services would be redelivered in a better way. That wasn't quite the right model. But I'm very sympathetic to what is happening in Norfolk, because if you're in a rural constituency like mine, Saffron Walden is about 300 to 400 square miles. The way the service runs in that type of area, it just doesn't deliver for everybody. Perhaps the people who are closest to it, it might work well for them. But if you can use that money in a different way and outreach, as he said, you use outreach to get to more people, then it's a better way.
Do you think though that it should be access for everybody?
I think as much as you can, but sometimes a model that works in one place that delivers access for everybody does not work in a totally different area. So I mean, I understand what Gavin means by the postcode lottery, but places are different, and you can't have everything. You can't have everything the same.
And there was a thought that actually very often it was the middle classes who thought, oh, this is good, I can send my children there, and actually the people who should have been getting the help weren't getting it.
Well, I think every child should have access to high-quality education, 0 to 5. It's not a platitude. Actually, when you mix together people from different backgrounds, you increase outcomes.
Yeah, but what was happening was you weren't mixing. It was the places were taken up predominantly by people.
No, I absolutely don't accept that at all. And I have to say, as someone who has vitally needed Surestart in my constituency, seeing the difference that it can make, and as someone that's gone through those 0 to 5 years, as a parent as well, I think it is the magic bullet. I think it's the thing that holds communities together. The only other thing I would just say very briefly is it's fine to say we want an equal provision for people across Norfolk, but if the way to get that equality is by slashing by 90% the service that you're offering so that everyone has the same thin gruel, I don't think that's the way forward at all.
But it isn't about a building, is it? It is about the people who run the service. It's not about a building.
Absolutely, you need quality people, but the idea that you're not going to deliver that without a physical location as well, I just don't think is right. And ask yourself this, if these cuts were not coming from central government, would these changes be made in Norfolk and elsewhere across the county? Absolutely no, they wouldn't. They've been cut in my constituents in Kirby, they've been cut in yours as well.
One last word on that, the cuts.
Well, I disagree. I think that we always have to look at continuous improvement, and what was put in 20 years ago does not necessarily work today. There's so much that has been invested
in
early.
Cuts.
There are cuts. I'm not disputing that. But I think it's wrong to say that if there weren't cuts from government, then everything would be saying the same. That simply isn't true.